Hey y'all, you're listening to the What Would She Think podcast. I'm Danny.
And I'm Angie.
We're a mother and daughter duo, and we look forward to sharing the parallels on our life experiences.
Join us as we learn more about our views on how life has taken us on a wild ride.
This podcast is made to offer listeners a safe place to understand and discuss all the non-traditional new roles and breaking generational traumas. How we managed to turn our mother and daughter relationship from barely surviving
To thriving.
How about we get into how we got from there? How are we thriving?
It took a lot of communication, opening up, not being scared to tell you things, like feeling comfortable with you.
Do you think that was because I opened up and communicated about my stories?
Me going through a lot of stuff and you seeing it was a real eye-opening thing for our relationship.
Well, what I kept seeing was all the parallels of how you were making the same mistakes and choices that I made when I was a teenager.
Which is weird because you're the younger sibling, I'm the older sibling, and I had no idea you made these decisions.
And it's crazy because I can put myself in your shoes and you have no idea.
I have no idea.
So in going through your struggles that you've gone through, do you think that me going through similar things has now helped us?
Yeah, definitely. Not to say I'm gonna go make all the decisions you made, but just so we can learn from them. But no, it did help you better understand what I was going through, because I think if you didn't know what I was going through and didn't understand why I thought the way I did, it would be completely different.
That would definitely make it harder.
Right. Like not knowing what I'm thinking, not knowing what made me think this, or...
Yeah, I can definitely put myself in my 15-year-old brain and know exactly what you were thinking to make those choices. So it's not that I parent hypocritically.
No.
I parent knowing exactly what you went through and knowing...
And I've gotten better at not throwing things in your face.
Oh, absolutely.
I used to just be like, but you did. Why do you get to be mad? Which I guess wasn't really fair at all.
Mm-mm.
No. And I realized that, and I was like, oh, it's kind of mean. I had my wall up, as you know, and I would not let you in. So I think once I finally let that down, and I heard you for what you had to say.
And I think finally listening to what you had to say.
Mm-hmm. And then taking that both things into consideration, not just hearing and ignoring.
Exactly.
Because we had done that a lot. And we didn't care because we were being really selfish.
We were.
We were like, okay, but listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me.
That was exactly what I would think.
So once we both opened up, it was like, oh.
Communication.
Yeah.
Communication.
This exists.
Communicating with each other and listening to each other has definitely helped us to thrive. So that's how turning a relationship that was barely surviving, and we had our struggles.
We struggled a lot for years.
But you know what? I think that came from not understanding how to parent when you became a teenager.
Yeah, your parenting styles didn't change from me being little, 6, to 10?
Yeah. And then when you became a preteen and then a teenager, I couldn't let go of how I was parenting because...
You thought every way that you were doing was the right way.
Yeah, moms are always right.
Mm.
Well, so we thought.
And I thought I was right.
You thought. You know what? But I think I learned now, because I had to also rethink of my relationship with my mom when I was a teenager and what didn't.
Not to mention, you're parenting 3 different, I'm not going to say generations, but 3 different age groups.
Oh, absolutely.
A teenager.
A teenage girl.
A teenage girl. A preteen boy. And a baby girl. Oh.
She's 5.
You know what? She's still a baby in my mind. I was going to say toddler, but she's not even a toddler.
She's not a toddler.
She's
a kid.
5-year-old girl.
She's a kid.
Ow.
She's a crazy kid.
Gosh. So
And
3 different age groups.
which makes you the oldest.
And you were the younger sibling of 3.
I am the youngest sibling of 3. And we had very different roles in the house.
Very different. We felt a lot of different responsibilities also.
You had a lot of responsibilities as the older sibling.
I still do. Yeah.
Yes, you still do. You're still the oldest sibling in the house. And I, growing up,
We're the youngest.
I was the youngest
Of 3 girls.
of 3 girls. Could you imagine that? My poor parents had already gone through all the struggles.
All the preteen, all the...
Female struggles.
Oh, Lord. They're like, oh, we have to do this again.
So me being the youngest sibling definitely got to enjoy a lot more perks that my older siblings didn't.
Especially once they were out of the house.
Once they were out of the house, even just once they were out doing their own thing as the older teenagers. But
Like once they could drive places and get picked up places and go out and hang out.
Yep. Then it was just me hanging out with my parents. So what I do remember is being close to my parents because I was the youngest one.
That is true. Because you had a lot more time with them alone in the house.
So it's not that it's more because my older siblings got to spend that time with the parents when they were smaller.
Well, but when they were smaller, and yours is when you were older.
It led into when I was older because I was the last one.
Mm-hmm. And theirs was before when they were kids, like little.
And then they go off. Do you think you really struggled being the older sibling and that responsibility of being a role model?
A lot, actually. Especially in the beginning of the third one being born.
Do you think it's because the pressure of...
There is a lot of pressure when it comes to being an older sibling. The pressure of not messing up, and also the pressure of... Like, I always wanted to take on that mom role with Soph.
That's what the role of the older sibling, yeah. The older sibling has that
Just
role
because
of...
I was also older, though.
Yeah, the secondary parent. Mm-hmm. When mom is busy doing something, older sibling is helping with the younger sibling. Over. And they have that role.
Yeah. I think also, since I was a lot older with Soph, then...
There's a 10-year difference.
Exactly. So I was a lot more mature than when he was born. And there's a 2-year difference. I was 2.
Yeah, you have a 2-year... Well, no, at 2 years old, you were still a little mom.
You know what? I don't doubt it. But I have a lot more abilities now. Like, I could carry and walk around the house and be fine.
And actually babysit?
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, you never know.
You never know.
I'll just throw it out the stairs.
Oh, not again.
Not again.
Oh my goodness. So being the younger sibling had its perks, but I think the biggest downfall is...
The lonely side?
No, I couldn't get away with some of the stuff because my parents were so like...
Oh, because they were like, oh, I know these tricks already.
They knew all the tricks.
Oh, dang. So you had nothing.
I could not trick my parents into thinking...
Oh, I'm out here. Turn your location on.
The perks of having a phone now.
Yeah.
Find my location.
I know. I mean, safety reasons. You should.
Oh, yeah. Do you think I parent differently because I'm the younger sibling?
Yes. I think you would parent completely different if you were the older sibling.
Do you think I'd be more stricter?
Yes. But I think it's also just a you thing because I think the younger siblings never have that time to be bossy. So now they're going to carry it on when they're parents and be extra bossy.
I can see that.
But it's the opposite with you.
Do you think it's not the opposite, but it's evolved?
You know what? Yeah. It evolved from being, I wouldn't say bossy, but a lot more strict.
I feel like I was a very strict parent for you growing up.
You were. But it's a lot different now. So, you're still strict, but not, you better close your eyes by this time. Like now it's just, okay, just sleep whenever you want. Just make sure you're up in time.
I think it's definitely because as a parent, we're not the same person as we are parenting you when you're younger, being the older sibling. By the time the next kid comes along, the parent is a different person.
Mm-hmm.
The parent is older, and then the next one, the parent is even older, and...
I think also just the parents evolving, like, mentally. like, oh, I learned with this kid not to do this.
Oh, yeah. So one thing I will say is that being the younger sibling, I really enjoyed that time with my parents trying to be the helper because it was like mainly me in the house. But you feel that as the older sibling too, don't you?
I do. But I also think if I were the older sibling for a lot, no, if I was the only sibling for a lot longer, for 10 years, I was the only child for 10 years. And then suddenly this new child has come along, that would be completely different.
That would be so different.
You'd have to relearn everything. I think you would have a lot more mom feelings. Like, you'd want to, like, take care of them and, like, do all this and, like, you know, cook for them or something like that. Then when they're really close in age and they're like, get away from me, I'm going to hit you, move out of my room. You're in my room. No, I'm in the hallway.
But do you think even just like the sharing, now having to share my parents is a big deal?
No, sometimes it's nice.
No, like if you had to go from being the only sibling
Oh, from the only sibling to that?
To now.
Completely.
I think that'd be a huge
But it also
change.
has to do with what age you are, because I think if you're like 10 and you go through that, yeah, you'd have a little bit, but I think if you were older, there'd be a lot less of that.
Well,
like,
yeah, because you're already on your way out the door.
You've already had your time, so you're like, you know what, it's your turn. But when you're younger, you're like, but what about me? Give me attention. Give me attention now.
How do you think it would differ for an only child?
Just always wanting attention.
No, I mean like with everything. Think about all the things that you deal with as the older sibling.
It depends if you're neglected as a child or not. Because obviously different parents, but if you were neglected as a child, you'd be glad you're an only child. No, you wouldn't be glad you're an only child. You'd want somebody else there. And I think if you were praised as an only child, you'd love being an only child.
So the way the parents being the only child is a lot different too. You're right.
How was it being the youngest of three? What did you feel like you had to do?
I was the youngest. I didn't have all that.
You weren't relied on for anything?
I saw my parents.
Did your parents give up?
No, I saw them struggle more and being a lot harder on my older sisters.
So you just knew what not to do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So I guess being an older sibling is just being a test subject. And then your younger siblings are like, oh, so we don't do that and this will happen.
Exactly. That's how easy it is. You learn.
God, you have it so easy as a young child.
You learn what makes the parents upset, and then
you do them. Just kidding. You don't do them.
You don't do them.
You know what not to do.
You know what not to do. Yeah.
And we had, I guess also the parents are the first. That's the first kid. That's their first kid.
That's exactly what I was thinking in my head. As the mom to the older sibling, it was hard because it was the first time. You don't know the struggles that you're going to go through until you're going through them. And you don't know how you react until you've already reacted.
And then you realize your mistakes with the first one, so then you don't make it with the next few. And then...
Well, you would think.
You would think. And then you find out, oh, so they're not all the same.
They're not all the same.
So you have to learn how to parent different ways.
So...
3 different ways.
Yeah. You are the oldest. Then there's a boy. And then another girl. We were all girls.
So you never had a guy in the house other than your dad?
Nope. And it was always, I would see my older teenage sisters as I was growing up, doing all the things and getting in trouble. And so when it came to me,
I just knew not to do those things.
I chose not to do those things.
I think that's why you see it so easy to make good choices, because you saw other people get them, make them and have to pay these consequences for it, and I didn't necessarily. I got told, oh, this is gonna happen, but I never saw it happening, so I didn't really, not believe it, but I didn't think it would be true.
You wanted to test it.
I wanted to test it.
You wanted to push the button.
I wanted to push the button. And you had seen the button be pushed, so you didn't have to do that.
They leaned on that button.
They put all their weight into that button.
Oh my goodness, I remember there were so many stories of the things they would do as teenagers. And I chose not to go down the same route. But then, you know what? I still made my own mistakes.
Yeah.
I wasn't a perfect kid. I just didn't make the same mistakes that they did.
You made different ones.
I made different ones.
So it was even harder for them.
Oh, yeah.
You're the last one.
Oh, yeah. They were so done with it.
By the third one, they were like, okay, just get out now.
You know what?
That's
yeah.
another thing. Moving out and being the last one there. What is it like being not an only child, but the only child in the house?
By 14, I remember being the only one with my parents because my older sisters were already out doing their own thing. Like, I remember being...
Did you like it? Or did
yeah.
you miss them, like...
No, I remember going to SeaWorld and it was just me and my parents and we
Had
watched shows, got on rides. It was so fun.
I wish I was the last kid now.
Yeah, well, you're the first one to get to go out there.
Oh, you make a good point. Oh, that's kind of scary though.
You know, Sophie's already terrified.
Oh, moving out?
Yes.
What did she say?
She says, no, I want to live with you forever.
Oh.
That's what I used to tell my parents.
Oh.
I told my parents that we were going to...
get a house together.
That we were going to all live together. That they were going to live with me when I was old.
Oh.
It must be a younger
sibling thing. Not an older sibling thing.
No. Do you remember growing up and wishing you were the younger sibling?
Yeah. But it was whenever I would get told, like, oh, you're the role model. Then I'd be like, oh, I don't want to be the older sibling then. I don't want to be the role model. Because I didn't want to listen. But I just didn't want to be that person that I felt all this guilt to be the older person.
Like the pressure of being good?
The pressure of being good. So, like, if I mess up one time,
So one thing I do...
You fail as a role model, though.
It's not that you fail.
Well, I felt
you
like
struggled.
That. I felt like if I messed up one time, I was like, oh, so they're all going to turn out this way.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. But I will tell you what. Being the parent of the older sibling, completely different person when you're the parent to the next one, to the middle child.
What do you mean?
When you have two. And then as you get older, you're now the parent to the younger one. And mentally, you're a completely different parent.
Because you just knew it as, oh, older siblings are bossy. Older siblings are this and this. I mean, they are, but...
That was my experience, yes. My sisters were very bossy.
I mean, not even just yours. I can be bossy sometimes.
You are very bossy.
I am very bossy. I think that's just my personality, though. I don't think that has to do with me being an older sibling.
Older sibling takes the role of like a secondary parent.
Yeah. That's another thing. Feeling guilt to like, oh, let's get all this done so mom can finally relax, especially after 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Being like, oh, okay, all this has to get done. There's no way she can do it. So then you feel the guilt to help.
Yeah.
And like make dinner or like just like things around the house. Cleaning.
It's a huge help.
I know it's a help, yeah.
When the older sibling helps with the younger one, is a huge help as the parent.
And it's great when they actually get along.
That's good.
Yeah.
I remember always helping my mom. Because it was just me and her.
Oh, because, well, everyone else was out.
Yeah.
They're pretty much older.
So, my sister is 5 years older than me. And then my oldest sister is 7 years older. So when they're already in that teenage years from when I remember being a young kid, it was my turn. It was my time with my parents. I remember helping do the dishes. I remember wanting to be there helping my mom cook dinner, even just being there. But I guess that was just my role because I was the youngest. Where else was I going to be?
You didn't really have anyone else to hang out with in the house anymore?
Well, no. They were just doing their own older sibling thing. Do you think I would be a different parent if I was the older sibling?
Yes. I think that's just seeing how your older sibling is with kids and how seeing you are, there's a there's a specific parenting style difference. Like, you're a little more lenient, a little less bossy. Not to say she's bossy, but you're a little less, like, snarky with it. Like, you go do this. Because you never... Well, I feel like that would make you actually more snarky.
You don't think I'm snarky?
I don't know. Hold on, now that I think about it. I don't think you are.
No?
I think that... I don't think you are because I've seen the way parents can be really snarky.
Do you think I've improved on my snarkiness?
Oh, God, yes.
You think I'm less snarky now?
So much less snarky. But I think that's because we have a different communication level than we did.
Definitely.
So I do think you would parent a lot more different because I see the way she parents and I see the way you parent. Then again, I am her niece, so she can't parent me, but I do see the way she parents her own kids. She's a lot more strict than you are. But then again, I feel like she doesn't have that close relationship with her kids. I mean, she may have a close relationship, but it's on a different level. So we're able to
I think it's just
because
because you see it from the outside perspective.
You know, you're probably right. I think so.
Judging something from the outside is definitely different from when you're the one on the inside.
Yeah.
So in talking about being the older sibling versus being the younger one, did you learn anything about my experience?
With being the younger sibling, you kind of saw what happens with certain consequences, or like you saw if you did this, you have this consequence, and you didn't have the urge to push the button to see.
I pushed the button. You pushed the button.
With me, I was tempted to push the button, and I did push the button.
Oh, you pushed the button plenty, my child.
I still do.
You still do.
So I think you seeing, oh, this happens if I do this. I don't want to do that. So you seeing the punishment part actually happen definitely helped you not make those choices.
Make better choices, definitely. I realized in our conversation how much pressure you have as the older sibling.
Mm-hmm.
And that might make me rethink. And I think I do think about that sometimes because...
I know you do. We've definitely talked about the pressure and...
Well, even just with Sophie, I don't feel that it's completely your responsibility to have to take over when Dad and I are around. Mm-hmm. Like if Dad and I are around,
aware of that.
I'm more aware of that now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like you shouldn't have that pressure because you're just a sibling.
You do check in, like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. I don't think you need to be stressed on that.
Yeah.
And I think I've realized it seeing and communicating.
Yeah.
That has definitely helped. Well, I'm glad that we had that conversation.
I'm glad we had this conversation too.
So, do you think we both prefer to be the only sibling?
Yeah. None of the kids.
No other kids, just us. So we can get all the attention.
I think that's what I...
Well, wait, pause on that. Do you think if we were the only child, we would not want that much attention to us? That if there's other siblings, that kind of like takes away the attention?
Yeah. That's usually how only siblings think.
I don't think they think that, though.
They do. They don't want the attention.
Oh, yeah, no, they do think that.
They don't want the attention, and they hate all the attention, normally. Normally, that's what they all think.
It's both of them. They want all the attention, and they don't want all the attention.
Yeah, so they want all the attention when they're little, but once they're older, they don't want any. But then the parents get bored because they have no one else to give attention to.
Well,
that's usually how another sibling comes along.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Exactly.
Alrighty. If you want to be part of our questions and conversations, just send us an email at whatwouldshethink.podcast@gmail.com. And your stories can be part of our conversation.
We'll be back next Wednesday with a brand new podcast. Bye.
Bye. See you next time. This podcast is funded by buymeacoffee.com/twistofviolet.
With a membership, you will have access to exclusive content, behind the scenes, and a bonus video podcast a month.
The podcast theme song is composed by Philip Tamez.